let's get back to our last topic. And this is, again, Jorge Masvidal coming out today on a new interview on the MMA Hour saying that he wants Leon. I've actually got the clip pulled up. I'm just going to play a little bit of it, and then we're going to or Justin, I want you to respond to this, so let's check it out. Here's Jorge Masvidal talking about fighting Leon Edwards.
I mean, now, I don't know if it happens.
What did you think of how he looked against Sean Brady last weekend?
You know, Sean Brady, surprising a lot of people, man, but the guy's tough, man. He's like a dog on a bone. He's not gonna quit. He gets into tough positions and he'll keep stepping on the gas, you know. And I think Leon felt that pressure and just kind of broke, like, man, I'm in a bad spot here. I'm not gonna get out of this unless I waste a ton of energy. And it felt like on some of those exchanges, you just kind of like flabbergasted, you know. He couldn't deal with that pressure. He kind of gave up, you know.
I saw Dean Thomas say that he's lacking the heart these days. Do you agree with that?
I've always thought he's more of an athlete than anything. You know, he's a great athlete, he's a phenomenal athlete. He's not like a fight down in the mouthpiece.
So earlier in this interview is where he says he wants to fight Leon. That's the fight he's looking for next. And he would love to get Leon in the next fight if Leon doesn't want to take too much time off. But that clip I thought was interesting, and I wanted to turn it over to you. Basically, he's saying, like, you've talked about this, right? You said, like, hey, there's a lot of people maybe who have the skill, but you don't have the mindset or the heart. You can't get in there and actually do damage, or as soon as it gets real, you're just going to give up and tap out. I mean, obviously, that's a bit of a stretch to say that about Leon, who's done so much in the sport already. But what are your thoughts and your perception of Leon? Do you find any truth in what Jorge Masvidal is saying, or do you think he's out of line here?
You're talking about Leon Edwards, right? You're talking about the former UFC champ, right? You're talking about the guy that knocked out Kamaru Usman when he's down 4 rounds to 0, right? You're talking about the guy that knocked out. Let me reiterate what I just said.
Yeah.
No heart. He's down 4 rounds to 0. Let me reiterate one more time. 4 rounds to 0 to arguably one of the greatest welterweights of all time, and finds a left head kick and knocks him out. Jorge Masvidal, who I'm a fan of, I love his style. I think that was a great interview. He sounds really articulate. I think he sounds really smooth in that interview. Jorge Masvidal, who's lost to Colby Covington about 17 times. Jorge Masvidal, who hasn't won an MMA fight since 2019. The last 2 wins that Jorge Masvidal had, Ben Askren, which skyrocketed him into fame. That's his only known claim to fame, is that he knocked out Ben Askren in 10 seconds with a flying knee. His next fight was against Nate Diaz, who went up a weight class. He wins by a cut. Then he's lost 4 fights in the UFC in a row. All tough fights, of course, because he's fighting at the top of the division. But he hasn't won a fight in MMA since 2019. And prior to that, like, he had 2 wins in a row, Ben Askren, Nate Diaz, and he just lost to Nate Diaz in a boxing match. You know, like, and Nate Diaz is a lot smaller than Jorge Masvidal. So when he talks about questioning Leon's heart, I disagree with him, man. We're talking about a guy that was down 4-0, man. Like, you guys don't understand. When you guys talk about heart, and you think about Anderson Silva being down Chael Sonnen 4-0, he's down 4.5 rounds to 0 and finds a triangle. This is what champions are. This is what champions do. They find ways to win. And for Jorge to say that he doesn't have any heart. Now, listen, Leon's been there and done that. He's already been to the top of the mountain. And if you guys, I don't know when my video is coming out. I just sent it to Luis and you guys yesterday about, did it come through?
It came through. We're going to post it probably today, probably. Yeah.
So we talk about this. Getting to the top of the mountain is tough, but it's way tougher staying there, man. And I tell you what, when you're already there, and look, he lost that fight. He finds himself in a compromising position, man. It's tough, dude. Like, people don't understand. And I say this all the time. I say it in videos all the time. I sound like a broken record. Like, we are not machines. We're not a computer to where we just turn on and then we're ready to go. We have, like, man, like, dude, it's, and I'm speaking from experience, guys. Like, when I got, just like, you find yourself, and Jorge is half right. Yeah, he finds himself in a compromising position. He's losing this fight, you know, and his why. Because remember, when you're on your way up, you have a why. Everybody has a why. My why was, why am I doing this? Why am I taking all this damage and persevering? Because I want to get to the UFC. My goal is to get to the UFC. And unfortunately, I come from this small podunk town called Richmond, Michigan. Nobody in my town has ever done anything like I've done before in any sport, whether it's football, basketball, anything. I am the number 1 guy out of my whole area. So my goal was to get to the UFC. But once I got there, I completed all my goals. So it's like, why now? Like, oh, well, now I'm trying to remotivate myself with new goals. And unfortunately, I just couldn't do it. Now, when you look at Leon Edwards, his goal was to become the UFC champion. He got there. So now he's finding himself in these compromising positions. And Jorge's right. He's probably like, why? Why? Nothing. The only thing he can do is get back to where he was. He can't surpass being the UFC champion. So a lot of times your why changes and you find yourself in these mental lapses. And again, I'm speaking from experience, guys. I know if you guys are new to the show, you've only seen me compete since we've been doing this show for the last 2 years. I'm not the same guy. John or Muttball, he's my best friend. He cornered me in, out of my 79 fights. John, how many fights do you think you cornered me in? 40 of them? Maybe 45 of them? But until I turned pro, John cornered me in almost every fight I did. And I'm just not the same person. My why changed. It's not that I'm weaker or dumber. If anything, I have more experience in it, but my why changed. And when I started losing fights after I got cut from the UFC and I lost to Carl Deaton by decision, and then I go and I fight the guy that I fought, he's in the UFC now. He's 4-0 after he beat me.
Chris Padilla.
Chris Padilla is 4-0 now in the UFC.
Yeah.
4-0. He just beat Jai Herbert. Like, what?
Yeah.
This is a guy that I should have beat.
Yeah.
But again, my why was different. Chris's why was better than mine. His why, I want to get to the UFC. I want to get to the UFC. My why, the first 25-ish fights John cornered me for. Those 25 fights, I was a dog. I'd take damage. I'd get knee to the head. I'd be bleeding. I'm like, yeah, let's go. I want to get there. But in the last couple of years, for our viewers, our new viewers who have seen me compete, they're probably, man, this guy sucks. It's not that I suck. It's just that, for one, I'm old. For two, I've had 79 fights, and my why isn't the same why. I don't have the same why anymore, man. And the same thing goes with Leon Edwards. His why is different. His why is different. He finds himself. I believe Leon's fighting for a paycheck now. He knows he only has a couple years left in the sport. He wants to get as much money as he can out of it. And getting back to the UFC champion, it's getting there is tough. But I say it all the time. Getting there is tough, but staying there is harder. And I think Leon Edwards is just going through, a couple mental lapses right now because his why is different. And staying there and staying tough is tough. And again, Jorge Masvidal, man, as much as I think he's great, but he's not a championship caliber fighter. Leon Edwards is a much better athlete. I will say Jorge is more of a dog than Leon, but Leon's a way better athlete and he's a way better technician. And I just don't see any way Jorge Masvidal can win this fight. Now, as I said in my video, I'll say now, if Leon Edwards wants this fight, it's a tune-up fight. And I think he goes in there and I think he starts as Jorge. I think he wins a decision. Really? I don't think he knocks him out. I think he wins a decision. Maybe he can finish in the later rounds. But again, Jorge Masvidal hasn't won a fight in boxing or MMA since 2019. If Leon Edwards wants this fight as a tune-up fight to get back in the win column, I think he should take it. But I don't think this does anything for his career. And Jorge talks about, if I go in there and beat Leon, I'm next up for a title. Bro, you lost to Nate Diaz in a boxing match. You lost 4 MMA fights prior to that. And, I just don't think Jorge Masvidal, in my opinion, is going to have to win 3 fights of top 10 guys to even be considered for a UFC championship. If you guys remember, he lost to Colby Covington like 2 or 3 times. And Covington, was it only once? Oh, well, regardless. He lost to Colby Covington to in my opinion is one of the worst welterweights in the division right now.
Whoa, that's those are fighting words. No, we that's one fighter I'm cool with kind of saying stuff like that about, because I just think Colby, man, for some reason I
thought they at least fought twice.
No, they only fought once. And somebody actually made a comment that Jorge could have won that fight if I don't know, I don't remember the exact.
Woulda, shoulda, coulda, man. Woulda, shoulda, coulda.
Yeah. That's fair. Okay, wait. I want to say one thing, and then I want to show some of these comments. So I really want to see Jorge versus Leon, and I do agree with you that it would be a tune-up fight, but that would be great for Leon. I think it would get a huge buzz. They can play that trailer when Jorge slapped him in London or punched him in London, a couple times back in the day, almost like 5-6 years ago. I think it's great. It's perfect for both guys, and it can headline a UFC fight night. That's I would totally watch that. I'm all about that beef and that drama. And I actually do think Leon can get the knockout finish, because Jorge himself said after the Gilbert Burns loss that he's like, I'm not as quick as I used to be. My speed is declined. And even though it's just a small fraction of a second that my speed is declined, like that's what he utilized. And that's what he relied on in his striking and in his game, to be evasive and to land strikes. So I think now if that's continued, which I imagine maybe it has, or maybe even gotten worse. It's been such a long time since he last fought in the UFC. I think Leon's going to capitalize that, and I think that speed differential is going to give Leon the opportunity to land a knockout blow. That's my 2 cents. That's my thoughts, but I'd love to see this fight. Okay, we got so many comments, so I want to read through some of these. Hold on one second.
And Roman, I just saw you texting me, but I can't look at the text or it'll close me out of the browser, so I have to wait till the show's over.
All right. Yeah, we are almost done here, guys, as well. Somebody says, yep, right here. He's the one to question somebody. I think they're basically agreeing with you that, like, who is Masvidal to question him? GFL for Leon. No, what the heck? Leon's so young, dude. He's like 33 or something.
He's only lost 2 fights.
No, and he's lost 2 fights to, like, who? To Bilal, who's the current champ, and
Sean Brady, who's the number one
lost to Sean Brady, but Sean Brady's a legend. I think Sean Brady's so underrated. And
he's the number one contender. He's the number one contender now.
And I think Sean Brady could beat Bilal, by the way. I don't know if you agree with me. But then Lucky Kick Leon, what? I mean, yeah, you could say that. But again, I think Justin made an amazing point. He was down 4 rounds to nothing. And to have the wherewithal to keep fighting and keep trucking and, like, pull out that head kick. Go ahead. Yep.
So, people talk about luck in MMA, and there is a luck aspect of it. But let me tell you this. That's not the first time he threw that kick. He has practiced that kick 10 million times. He's practiced left high kick off a left cross 10 million times. And although maybe the circumstances were lucky, he practiced that kick. It wasn't just like, oh, you know what? Okay, if I go in there and I throw a left head kick in a fight and I knock a guy out, that's lucky because I never throw a left head kick ever. I have little short stumps for legs. I'll have to get on my tippy toes to reach people in the head. So that would be considered lucky. Leon Edwards is known for throwing that kick. And the way he set it up, he practiced that setup for years and years, and it just happened to work perfectly in that moment. So, yeah, there's some luck involved. But again, he prepared for that moment by practicing for years and reps and reps and reps. He just happened to land it perfect in that moment, which, yeah, give it a little luck. But, luck in MMA, it's just like my left hook. My left hook, a lot of people said, oh, that left hook was so lucky. Listen, I have knocked out of my 17 wins, I have knocked out all my knockouts. I think I have like 10 knockouts. 8 of them are from a left hook. So is that 8 lucky shots? No, it's just that I prepared in that moment to go low, bang, so many times. And if I catch you with your hands down, you're going to get knocked out, man. And I practiced that technique so many times to prepare for that situation. And Leon Edwards did the same. So, yeah, there's a little bit of luck involved. But at the end of the day, he practiced for that moment, and it just happened to work in that moment.
That's really good. That's really good perspective, especially because sometimes people can feel like that in a striking battle or an early knockout or something like that, but you're not recognizing all the work that was put in, those little nuances of the timing. As you mentioned, it was a weird one because usually, let's say, like you throw strikes on the opposite side, right? You go left to right or something like that, or you go left and then you're gonna do a right kick. But it was the same side shot, so he threw a left and a left kick following it up right after. So that was a little bit of an unorthodox thing, but then the left hand caught Kamaru to dip, and then boom, he caught him dipping down as the leg was coming up. So it is interesting and very notable to recognize that. Muttball says Huzaifa versus Ariel Helwani, who wins Thunderdome style. Commentators enter, one leaves. I don't know. I think actually Ariel's bigger than me, and supposedly he trains boxing twice a week. But I'd love to. I think that'd be interesting at kickboxing. I think he would have the size advantage. But let's go, Ariel. Let's see what you got. And then Andrew says Bilal is nasty. Yes, he is. Hold on, we got a bunch more. Oh, look, Andrew Nance was saying these two tag team versus other YouTubers. That'd actually be cool because I'd have an actual professional fighter on my side. So I think we could mess a lot of people up just because of you. I just basically tag you in and then sit on the side. That's perfect. I'm impressed. No, let's effing go, Justin. No, I thought that was a really, really, really good point in terms of the whole Leon thing. We're gonna clip that too. I want to post that as well. In addition to your other video. Muttball says Justin had his first fight in a bowling alley at 17 and lost to a guillotine. Second fight was in VFW and was a slobber knocker.
VFW Hall, yeah. And I hit him with that. You remember the Mr. Gotcha? So I never trained any boxing. So we had this laughing joke, and John knows what I'm talking about. I'd throw this big left hook, and then if I missed, I would stop and then backhand it, come back, and I'd miss, and then they rush on, bang, and then crack them back with it. It was called the Mr. Gotcha.
And it worked?
I mean, I hit some guys with it. It was I looked stupid doing it, but I was like, fuck, it works. Fuck it.
Western says Jorge versus Leon would be such a throwback. Dude, it's the fight to make. They got to make it. I'm not interested nearly as much in any other fight, any other matchup. Maybe, no, that's not true. Leon versus Ian Gary is interesting, but put Leon against Masvidal. And as you mentioned, it could be a tune-up fight for Leon. It's great, and it's going to get big numbers.
If he wants it, he should.
If he
doesn't want it, he shouldn't take it.
For sure. Mutball says Jorge is as old as the hills. He's not that old. I think he's like 40 or 39.
He's 40.
Yeah. I don't think 40 is that old. I don't know. Maybe you disagree. Andrew Nance says, shout out to Roman. Let's go. And we got a couple other things. Andrew's laughing at me. I think about fighting Ariel. Oh, Mutball says, you better post a Huzaifa versus Ariel. Actually, yeah, we got to do that. Huzaifa, just swear. Justin doesn't. You notice that I try not to swear. What? I mean, like, I don't know.
Listen, guys, I'm going to let you know something about Huzaifa. This guy is a rule follower, man. He is the most strict rule follower I've ever met. And I appreciate it because I'm not, so he kind of balances me out when we're hanging out. So I really appreciate it.
And no, but like Justin, we try to speak freely. Will use like those types of words like outside the stream. I just don't see the point and I feel like I can stop myself from doing it. So why not? If I feel I think I have cussed 1 or 2 times or something on the show when it really calls for it. Like if Chimaev gets a victory in the next fight, okay, maybe I'll drop an F-bomb, but otherwise, hey, what's the point? Anyways, we're coming to the end of the show. What a fun show today. This was such a great show. I loved our discussion about DDP because that really gave me a lot of insight. And this is why I liked talking to Justin in particular, but also just other fighters and hearing those perspectives, because like, I'm not going to come up with that on my own, or I'm not going to have the wherewithal to understand exactly those nuances and what really differentiates DDP and makes them special. So we're definitely going to post that. I thought it was an amazing point that Justin made as well about Leon versus Masvidal, and people who are not, because people really are critiquing the heck out of Leon. Some people are saying it was a fraud check against Sean Brady and all this stuff. And it's like, people forget so quickly. But then I hear it over and over, and I'm even questioning myself, was Leon really ever that good? But I think Justin just laid it all out there, gave us that a great perspective of like, hey, you got to remember like what he's done. And that 4-0 when he was down 4 rounds, like that's a big deal to come back from that mentally, emotionally, and to pull things together and to get that.
What about the second time? Second time?
Second time, very dominant.
You beat him twice. What I mean? Like you beat him twice.
Back to back.
And sorry, I get these thoughts in my head. Like, talk about Kamaru Usman. Why couldn't he come back? He just destroyed him 4 rounds. Why couldn't he beat him again? Because he has his why. Why? So he can beat him, so he can be the champ again, and just fight another tough guy, and then another tough guy. It's you guys don't understand, man. Again, we're not machines, we're not robots. We have a mental edge, and like when I was fighting Carl Deaton out of my first fight out of the UFC, I was on the ground and he's elbowing me in the head. He's elbowed me in the back of the head. I got a point deduction, but I remember consciously sitting on the ground, taking elbows in the side of my head, covered up, and I'm thinking. I remember thinking it very well. It's like, why am I here? Why am I doing this? I just got paid $25,000 in my last fight. In this fight, I'm getting paid $1,500. Why am I doing this? And my why was, to get back to the UFC to fight another tough guy. Like my why, like it broke me, man. And if Roman's still watching the stream, man, I really hate that I've disappointed all my coaches and a lot of my teammates in the rep. But you find yourself in these compromising positions, and you got the devil and the angel on your shoulder, man. And the guy's like, hey, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? Why are we taking this damage for fucking $1,000? Like, and sometimes, and it's not that I'm mentally weak, guys. You guys don't understand the things I've persevered through the year. Like not just injuries, not just losses, financial relationship. And, I'm not going to say that Carl Deaton broke me. I broke myself. I beat myself because instead of, 5 years ago before I was in the UFC, I get taken down. I'm getting right back up. Nobody's holding me down. And it just never happened. And now I'm against Carl Deaton. I'm just sitting there in referee's position or on my hands and knees, taking all this damage, saying like, why am I in here? Why am I doing this, man? And I'm sure that's what Kamaru Usman thought. I'm sure that's what Leon Edwards is going through as well.
Speaking of Kamaru Usman, I can't wait to see him come back. That's another interesting question to see, what does he still have? I know people always talk about his knees. Let's see. He's another guy who's one of the mentally toughest people in the UFC. I got to highlight this quote because it's giving me props. Respect to Huzaifa for doing his own thing and not following the crowd. That's what brought me to the channel. Let's go. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Andrew says, great show as always. Thanks. You are welcome. Thank you guys for joining. We really appreciate it. We had a nice crew of people here today. Lots of comments, lots of activity. We really appreciate all the comments. I know I'm not getting to all of them. I try to get to as many as I can, especially the ones that really further the conversation. So I'm doing my best, but let me know if I can do better and how I can do better. We're always trying to improve the show as we go. Dab Snake is making an appearance late in the show. Whoa, wow, that's insightful. Thanks for sharing, Justin. We haven't seen you on here all show today, so thank you for making an appearance, Dab Snake. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. We are done for today. What a fun show. And